Hi, I'm Josh Harris, Associate State Director for AARP Illinois. We're so glad to welcome you to this exciting event. AARP knows this pandemic has been trying on us all, threatening the health and financial security of millions of Americans 50 plus. That's why it is our pleasure to bring you this night of levity, from fine art and great music to help us all recharge, connect, and address some of the social isolation we know people are feeling at this time. It's our way of reminding you that AARP Illinois is here for you, fighting to protect 50 plus voters and make your voice heard on the issues that matter. Protecting Social Security and Medicare, lowering prescription drug prices, and ensuring you can vote safely from home or in person. And in the days leading up to the election, know that you can visit aarp.org/IL for more information to help you vote safe in 2020 and make your voice heard.
Welcome. My name is Andre Guichard, artist, curator, and co-owner of Gallery Guichard.
And I'm Frances Guichard, also known as the artist Marlene Campbell, artist, curator, and co-owner of Gallery Guichard.
Welcome back to the Bronzeville Art District virtual trolley tour. I'm Andre Guichard, and this is the Gallery Guichard virtual Zoom exhibition, and we have a great show in store for you. This month, we're focusing in on the collector, but before we get started, I'd like to talk about and acknowledge our sponsors.
Oh yes, we have amazing sponsors, AARP, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and People's Gas.
Our mission at Gallery Guichard is to create platforms for artists and collectors to meet. We also strive to educate the collector about collecting by showing them examples of collectors who've already started their wonderful journey of collecting and living with original art.
And we know no collector is the same. Each collector has his own fingerprint. You can have a fingerprint as well.
Dan, first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing us to come to your beautiful home, enjoy your collection, and your continued support of the art community, the artists, this renaissance. But I have to ask, how did you start collecting?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my art, because it's about sharing. How did I begin this collection? I think it goes all the way back to perhaps when I was a little boy, and my mother would take us to secondhand stores that now we call antique shops, and it was in these secondhand stores that she would buy little knickknacks and whatnot, and I was responsible for cleaning them and keeping my younger siblings away from breaking them. And I began to unconsciously see shapes and colors and sizes and dimensions. And then in high school, I had Margaret Burroughs as a teacher, and she taught us not only art, but she taught us about our heritage and along with art. And so when I think back and I look at those two situations in my life, I think that perhaps, along with other things, brought me to where I am now.
I love that philosophy. And as you evaluate the intent, is the intent verbal, or is the intent something you gather from the work itself?
I think the intent comes from the work itself, because as you see art, it's the springboard to other art, to art you have never seen before. For example, when you think you've seen all the art of Africa, lo and behold, there comes this piece you've never seen before. When the genius of the art of the aspirin artists, when they think they have reached the pinnacle, there is yet a pinnacle to reach. And so for people like me, you're always buying art.
You know, you answered my next question, but I'm going to make sure, because everyone asks, well, how can he still continue to collect? You don't have a seemingly place to put it, but you still collect. Is that the reason?
Yes, that's the reason. It's almost like addiction, you know. You see it, and a piece, you just have to have it.
Well, you are, as we know, a very modest man, but there's so many things about you and your collection and who you are, but something you don't always wear on your collar is your book. It's an incredible book. Could you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, my book, the inspiration was that I was moving from a large space and to the space that I'm currently in, and I knew there was a story, and I did not think I could display my art ever again, not that grand. And so I said I better record this, and I didn't think it would be the undertaking that it became, but it was. And so in order for it to make sense, I divided my book into 3 parts. The first part, I told of African art because I had gone to Africa several times, and my book took me there another time, and I began to gather art and experiences that I never would have if I hadn't written the book. And so the first part of the book tells somewhat of the African art in my collection. The second part talks about art of the diaspora, that is, all the artists whose roots are in Africa, whether they have been intermingled with people of various racial groups, but their base identity is in Africa, and those were the artists that are around you in my collection. So the second part of the book speaks to that. And then finally, I showed art in the home, and I used my home as example. I used the old house. We called it the Victorian, and it shows how that art can be displayed. And then I had snapshots here of the art. And so the book kind of chronicles my journey and my experience as a collector.
You know, I call that activism. And you do a calendar, you've done several calendars. You could have stopped with supporting and collecting all these artists. Why do you feel activism is so important?
Well, the art is active. The art is alive. And so to participate in collecting the art, you have to be alive. You have to just not collect the art, but you have to talk about it. You have to write about it. You have to read about it. And so when you get to the level of being living, of one who's living with art, you have no choice but to be active. Because the art is active. The art is alive.
Everybody talks about the economy. What's happening to the art community. What are your thoughts about the economy and its effects on the art community, and do you think it has had any effect on the building blocks and the work and effort that has taken place the many years you've been collecting and around artists?
Well, certainly we all know that it has impacted us financially. And it has tried us spiritually. But Chicago, Black Chicago, has a resiliency, just as you said I have. And it's with that resiliency that we go forth. Artist says, well, what should I do? You should make more art now. Now is the time when you have the time to make the art. Well, you can share your experience of how you felt during this time in history by making the art. You as a gallery owner, your doors are still open. The hinges may be kind of hard. It may be kind of rough, but you know that that door, just as it swings closed, it swings open. And we just must be patient, must be time, must carry the spirit. And so all of this cohesiveness that we have, all of this camaraderie that we say we have, all of this love that we say we have, but must now come forth and must converge into a giant spirit of hope, of determination, of survival.
Welcome back. My name is Andre Guichard.
Hi. How are you?
Yes,
Good to see you.
thank you.
We are here at the Bronzeville Art District third Friday Trolley Tour. This is our October edition, and we are very excited, Dan, to kick off a series with you, which is entitled Fingerprint.
Yes.
And a series showcasing the different fingerprints of individual collectors. And particularly, we're going to highlight how every collector is different as every artist. Because as we can see just from the backdrop, your entire home, as we'll learn more, is covered by thousands of fingerprints of individual artists. So
Amazing work.
and it represents who you are. So just
Yes.
start with an amazing video 10 years ago that invited us to the home of yourself, Master Daniels, Hexador Parker, founder of the collector organization Master Rhythms, and of course, the author, National Art, Diaspora John. Dan represents part of the Chief panorama that is thought to be typical art collector. But what we're happy to see is that you're able to share how only for the rich, and we love that you share time with us. I'd like to some of the interesting parallels between today, 2000 October, and the video you just watched, January 2000. So particularly the recession and how things are different but different the same. I would have thought we were talking about right now. I think how the comparison of two recessions as it relates to collectors and artists responsibility between now and then.
Yeah. Well, you know, we don't live in a vacuum as artists and art collectors. We live in a very, very changing and sometimes upsetting world. And it was that way when we made that initial tape. People were in pain. People were hurting, just as they are now. But now it's something a little different because we have this COVID-19 and that's dangling over our heads. And now, just as I said, you said, what should artists do? Artists should paint. And I'm seeing wonderful paintings of the pain of this COVID-19.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yes.
artists are painting. And in all of this haze of darkness, some artists are still painting the joy of surviving to date. And so artists always chronicle what we are about in our society at the time we are about it. And so artists are great historians. And so sometimes if you want to know what's happening in a culture, look at the art. And of course, artists of our community are painting the particular pain and glory that we are experiencing as black and brown people. And it's unique, as always. So I say I can't wait to see how artists continue to chronicle this horrible era that we're in, because they show the pain, the sorrow, and yet the joy from this time.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yes. You know, it's been difficult for artists in this time, like you said. And it's hard for artists to get their artwork out to collectors. How have you seen artists get their work out through collectors? And do you think galleries can play an important role in helping artists get the work out?
Well, you know, doing what you're doing now, you're getting it out. Gallery Guichard is alive and well and active and bringing joy to people. You do what you're doing. You bring, because people need to see the art. They need to see, have that valve kind of loosen a little bit off the power cooker and get a little fresh air. And so give us hope, because that's what art does. It gives hope.
You know, you speak about that lemon to lemonade. The artists, while documenting, they still have the ability to bring the joy. You know,
Yes.
just visiting your home, no matter how many times I've been there, every single time there's an energy that just overcomes me. And it brings me to my next question about living with original art. How that experience pulled you in and how it did for you. Could you talk a little bit about living with original art, and particularly in a collection like yours with thousands of original pieces?
Well, I can start with an example of, you know, friends call. We have a tendency now to communicate even more than we did in the past. And some are down, and I don't feel that way, because why? I'm surrounded by art, and my art is helping pull me through this horrible time that we're in. And so I can look at my art and visit with my art, and it tells me things that I did not see before in it. It tells a story and a different story. So all of my art, while I have seen it every day, now I really look at it. And it brings with it a healing that I otherwise wouldn't have.
Beautiful.
And you know, during this time in particular, when everybody's at home now, they have more of an opportunity to see their walls why would you suggest that they buy art in recession? Sometimes people don't have a lot of money. It is something they put on the back burner. Why now do you think people are buying more art, and why should they buy more art, other than just the healing aspect?
Well, art, unlike a car and a dress and a shirt, and it does have value beyond a lifetime. And so you must buy what you love, what you like, what you appreciate every day because you're looking at it. But art also has a value. You know, a young man is just everyday Joe, brother, helped me hang some art yesterday, day before yesterday, before you came. And after he put it up, he said, "Man, I didn't know art could do this."
Wow.
This is a brother, the farthest thing from his mind is buying art. And he said, "Now I have to buy art for my bedroom."
That's right.
Wonderful.
Love it.
So art can move something within us that sometimes talking cannot do. But the mere presence of art has a deep, deep spirit.
You know, it's that education that, you know, people used to think of it as decoration. Now
Yes.
it's wellness. And
Yes.
much as diet is important, your mental and physical are so important in our lives.
Exactly.
Very good. You know, you speak about different spaces, and you know, you have such an amazing collection. I just want to make sure I get into the question of about how many pieces now collectively do you think you have in your collection? I know you're a master collector, but even in your collection, because 10 years ago, I think you're at about 700, give or take. But now, what would you say?
Well, about 2,000 pieces of traditional African art and the paintings and whatnot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that 2,000 collective or 2,000 of the African art and then a different number for the art of the
No, that's inclusive.
inclusive? Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Dan, are you, because you have such an amazing collection and have amassed an amazing collection, are you planning on another book? And in addition to, can you also explain for people what the diaspora is?
I've been planning on doing a book just of my pottery because it has a story in and of itself. But it would involve a trip to Africa. Not everyone does pottery in Africa. It's passed down from generations to generations. But oddly enough, in northern Africa, the men do the pottery. But in south of the Sahara, the women do the pottery. And so I want to kind of study that and bring it to the attention of the Western world, how they operate and how they maintain a legacy.
Lovely. So, speaking of pottery, there is a particular piece of pottery in South Africa that I forgot you had collected, and just yesterday, being in your home, and I'm actually showing Francis now because I know we were just talking about it. But can you tell us just how individually different every pottery piece is. And we're showing the piece on the screen now as just one example of your pottery. South Africa, you have Marble Jolly, but touch upon a little bit of those individual fingerprints and how many pieces of pottery you have.
The pottery, like the painting, the word you use is so appropriate, fingerprints, because the artist actually uses the fingers and the whole hand to make a pot, and no one pot is exactly the same as the other. They make the pot utilizing all of the symbols of that particular ethnic group that they're in, but they do something to make it unique to them. And while they may not put their signature on it as we do in the Western world, they put their signature on it by making something different with the pot. And so it's all of this that's so fascinating, so incredibly interesting about African art and its customs. And so I never get tired of speaking of it, and because there's just so much we can learn. I have about 30 pots, if not more.
Wow. So you collect deceased masters, living artists, the whole gamut, and emerging artists.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak as to your philosophy and how you approach collecting and how you approach it and how that changed? But as you're speaking, we're looking at a lot of different work in the collection, from Richard Mayhew to Dale Washington, Diane Deborah Hand, Dalton Brown. I mean,
Andre Guichard,
and the list goes on and on. But as it goes on, I'd like people to just get a sense of how you approach it, how you're able to get that range of artists.
Mm-hmm. And to me, I'm so proud of my collection because of that range. Because of that range is what makes my collection so rich and so unique. And so how do I approach, for example, I approach all the artists the same way, whether they are emergency or old masters. I want to know what inspires them to do the art. Where did their inspiration come from? Because what inspired them will be reflected in the art that they produce. And so once I kind of determined that, in purchasing it, I purchase the very best of that artist that I can afford to get. Not because it was on sale, or not because it was inexpensive at the time. If I'm getting an emerging artist, I'm going to try to get the very best that he has. With him, makes no difference. If I'm getting a piece from Andre Guichard or Francis Guichard, I want the very piece they have. I don't want the inexpensive piece. I want the best, because that is what then composes your collection. You have the best of every artist. So people may come into my house, they say, "Oh, I didn't know Andre did that."
So my question is about the history of your collection and the partial loss of your collection. And most recently, I saw how you were able to document um, showing on the screen now that those white backdrop of the work that was in the fire, how that just speaks volumes. It's almost like I was watching the event still happening, but you observed it and you carried it on. If you could talk a little bit about that law, what it meant to you, and protecting and ensuring your work, and how that you learn from that, what that means for collectors now.
Yeah, well, I had a tragic loss, but it could have been worse. It was an electrical fire, and all of my artwork was in some way damaged. If it were slightly damaged from smoke, or if it were totally destroyed by fire. And so that is one time that I maybe could write a whole book on how the art community came to me and supported me at a time, at one of my lowest times in life. Because I had a large portion of my collection destroyed. And all of the collection had to be removed from the house because they had to refurbish my home. And so the art community was so gracious, so caring, and so generous. And so I am forever indebted to them for what they've done. And that's sincere. I had my hall upstairs lined with all of this wonderful, wonderful art. And it was upstairs that the fire started. And so all the art in the hall just about was either destroyed or partially destroyed. And so when the firemen had finished hosing down to make sure the fire was out, they called me. They said, look, you better get, if you want to get some of your art and put it on the sofa or something, because we're getting ready to host the entire place. And so I got the art off the wall, piled it on the sofa, but then there was this art on the floor. And with heavy heart, I picked it up. I had no idea what I was going to do with it, but it was the remnants of my art, you know? And so I picked it up, and after a while, I looked at it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to immortalize this art. These pieces are special. And so I had them encased in white and hanging in a special room, all to themselves, as you saw.
Beautiful. And they look almost like something you see in the Louvre or something. I just love your collection in general. But
Yes.
first and foremost, your acting. Because 10 years ago, I was wondering how could you do more? And 10 years later, 1,300 pieces later, and lecture, and inspiration, motivation, definitely mentorship. I want to take mentorship I claim to have had with you, and I want to continue to say thank you for that. And I think with that,
And I think when I first met you, we started the book, African Art, Diaspora, and Beyond. And it was just an awesome opportunity to really delve into the work that we had, see how to put everything together, meet with Andre, and you guys talking about putting the book together and all the artists that you connected with. And I got a chance to connect with those artists as well. So I thank you for being an inspiration in my life. And now I'm doing art. I've been doing art for 16 years, and I really, owe a lot to you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. More than welcome.
And is the book still available if people want to get a copy for their own?
Yeah, well, yes, it is.
Okay.
Here it is. You know,
Awesome. Beautiful.
African art, diaspora and beyond. This book is significant because, as I said on the tape, I moved from this beautiful place here,
Right.
and I moved to where I am now, and I thought that I would never be able to display my art again. But I have cramped it all in here, and it's with me, and it's home, and that's great. But, the word diaspora is very important because it's a word of unity. It tells us where we come from, even though we may not even want to believe it. But diaspora means for black people, no matter where you are on this earth, your roots are in Africa. So I know many of us talk about the grandmother was an Indian and all of that. But before the grandmother was an Indian, her mother was an African.
That's right. Preach, man.
So you may be Afro-Cuban or Afro-Puerto Rican like myself, or Afro this. The Afro part is the most significant. You may be Jamaican. And we love our countries, those from the island, love the country so much. But what we don't seem to get is that we all were on this ship, and they dropped some off at Jamaica, some at Haiti, some in the United States. But they're all the same people. So we're all one people. We may have been dropped off at different geographical places, but we are one people. And we have, yes, because we are so creative, have developed cultures, Jamaican and Haitian and all different cultures. That's the culture that you have created. But you are blood, all one people.
Wow, thank you for the education. This is an amazing conversation. And
As always, you drop some knowledge in, and we're so thankful for all of your contributions.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity again.
You're welcome.
So I'm so grateful to you and Francis.
thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Welcome back to the Bronzeville Art District Third Friday Trolley Tour. This is our October edition, and we're starting a new feature, our Collector Fingerprint series. And this is the first of many, and this is a series which is multi-generational, so you'll have emerging collectors, master collectors, and everyone in between. And it just showcases how individual collectors also have fingerprints, just like the artists. And today we are featuring an emerging collector who has an amazing story about how he's using his collection to also educate in corporate spaces. But before we get into all of that, I just want to welcome Christopher Kraft.
Yes, hi, Chris. And I might add a young collector. So this is awesome.
Nice to meet you guys. How's it going?
Great.
Fantastic. So I think we have to get into the nitty gritty of how did you start collecting?
Yeah, so I started collecting, I don't know, say maybe like 2 to 3 years ago. I actually purchased my first piece from Gallery Guichard, believe it or not. These two individuals came by my house. They hung it up for me, which I was like, oh my God, great customer service. But the reason why I started collecting art, because I lost my father about 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago. And he really was kind of one of the most inspiring people in my life, obviously. He was my hero. But he was an art teacher. He was an artist. He was a basketball coach. He was a teacher also. So when he left, I felt kind of a void, and I kind of fell into a state of depression, to be honest with you. But then I remember going to a museum, and I was listening to different, listening to people talk, like say, this is Caravaggio, this is Picasso, and I was like, I've heard these names before. And, my father had really planted seeds in my head a long time ago. And I was like, okay, I know these people are. Let me start watering these seeds by, starting learning more about the arts and getting more into it. And what I come to find out that collecting for me has been a release and allows me to still have a relationship with him, even though he's no longer here. So that's why I started.
Oh, that's an amazing story.
That's a good story.
And so many things happen when you plant a seed in a young person's mind, and a positive seed. And so it's really good to see what your dad did and what he gave to you, because you're doing amazing things now, planting that same seed in other people. Can you tell us a little bit about, how that seed has led to your collection now, and what is it that you look for when you purchase a piece of art?
Yeah, so my collection, I call it the sign of the times. So it really is the view of an African-American educated male like myself, and how I perceive the world. And that means both the good, the bad, and ugly, but also internally. So when I look at pieces, I look at it from the aspect of, you remember photo albums? I know kids don't really know what that is, so I'm kind of dating myself. So with photo albums, you could take the picture and then you could kind of just, you would look back at them to get to that point. Since then, those things are kind of a thing of the past. So with artwork, art for me has given me the ability to speak when I don't have the words to articulate, because it's more of an emotion. So for me, my collection is my photo album. It's the sign of the time. So at any given time, I can look at that piece of art and know exactly what I'm was feeling at that time, what that moment was, and it expresses for me words or emotions when I could not express them myself.
Love it. So, you make me think about art activism, because we met 3 years ago. That was your first piece. How many pieces now would you say you'd have in your collection total, roughly?
Are we counting like books and statues and all that, or
The whole thing.
nah?
The whole thing.
Probably like over 60 plus. And I got a couple more coming, to be honest with you. I caught that art bug that people have been talking about, and it's very, very real.
So most people would say, well, he's supporting the artist, he's purchasing work, he's an activist, but you're really taking activism to another level, because not just supporting galleries, supporting artists in their studios, you've created something else with your collection. And if you could talk a bit about that, and how you have philanthropic efforts through collecting. I'm really curious to learn more.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a company called The Curators, and what we do, we focus on going into Fortune 500 companies and educating their ERGs, which stands for Employee Resource Group. So think of an underrepresented group within the organization of a Fortune 500 company. And what we do is we help them understand how you can leverage art as a tool to build financial wealth. So we do that on not just in a local scale, but also national and global scale also. So we've done this at a couple of Fortune 500 companies. In addition to, we have actually done this at various different 501(c) nonprofits. For example, the Pilsen Art Community Center house in Pilsen. So we go and help educate underrepresented minorities, to help them educate them how you can leverage art as a wealth building tool.
Beautiful. And, for so long, people have just thought about art as decoration. And, I know, we talk about financial implications, but could you dive deep into the potential value that is in our community in particular as it relates to fine art?
So I'll try to break it down into consumable chunks. I like to use what I call the 3 Bs: be bright, be brief, and be gone. So if you think about a piece of art, the art market is unregulated. So again, nobody knows what you pay for. Nobody knows what people sold for it. Now, with that being said, that allows for regulators not to be able to tax art appropriately. So art goes up with inflation no matter what, because it's unregulated. So for example, if you buy a piece of artwork for $100, right, and inflation is 3%, the very next year, the artwork will be worth $103. So think about that on a grander scale. So let's use it in reference to like property. So let's say you bought a home for $100 and then it jumped to, let's say $5,000, and you can leverage a line of credit, or a home equity line of credit, aka a HELOC. You can do the same thing with artwork. So if your art went from $100 to $103, you can take a HELOC or a art lock on that delta, which is the $3. And again, if it goes up all the time, year over year, that 3% is compounding interest. So therefore, let's just say you do get lucky and your piece goes from $100 to $20,000. You can take a line of credit on that difference between the $20,000 and the $100,000. Sorry, $100. So it's really broken down that simple, but it's really trying to understand. A lot of people do not understand the fiscal opportunities leveraging artwork.
So collateral, bottom line, you have, in so many words, shown how our community can get access to more collateral that's right here in the backyards.
Yeah, exactly. And you can do that, and also there's aspects of leveraging, fine art financing, but I don't want to go down that path. But that is another option that you can leverage to get artwork also. Because some people do leverage their artwork to buy other pieces.
And with that, tell us a little bit about why it's good to collect emerging artists.
So again, it's kind of like the stock market: buy low, sell high. So that's one of the values around emerging artists, right? You want to support artists where they're young, before they hit kind of a transitional turning point where their work just skyrockets. Because I believe in long-term investments, because I don't believe that I technically am a collector. I believe I'm a shareholder in that artist's future, and I want to support them from the ground up. It's like any type of incubator, and then once they get to the certain level, you can already see the appreciation of the artist because you help grow their career, but also it help create your values worth increase monetarily also.
Love it, love it. So for a new collector, is there anything that you would recommend as it relates to approach for finding what you love, but also being able to determine the upside investment for work?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a shameless plug. While my friends and I, we have a website called The Curators. That's www.thequr8trrs.com, and we kind of broke down a couple quick blogs to help people get a step into the process. So the first thing we always try to say is, again, one, buy what you love, right? That's what you got to understand, because not all pieces will appreciate in crazy value. You don't want to walk by a piece and you just don't love it. I mean, that's really step one. Two, do the research. Take your time, go to different galleries, ask questions. You want to do that to make you really immerse and understand what you're purchasing. Then step three, buy a budget, create a budget. You don't have to go high with something. You can start something with $5, $10. It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like I said before, you're buying what you love. And as your tastes grow, your finances will grow, and you'll start acquiring bigger or smaller pieces. That's kind of how I look at it. And then really also try to get a collecting cohort. I'm a member of a Black collectors group, Black and pretty much minority collectors group, where we all sit down and talk about artists, talk about what we're looking at, how are they leveraging their artwork financially, or having conversations around who's the next up and coming artist. And again, building those relationships with, not just the gallery, but the artists also. The galleries are important because they're the stewards. They're protecting the artists, right? But they're also supposed to educate you as a novice collector on what you should be looking at when it comes to an artist. So leverage that. Then also build your own relationship with the artist so you can understand the story and the meanings, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to understand why the work was created and then also be educated also. So it kind of ties back into those earlier things that I said before. Again, 1, buy what you love. 2, do the research. 3, create a budget.
And I want to say thank you to creating an organization that, you know, talks about African American art or just purchasing art. And with that, you know, it's important to make sure that people are able to determine who the best or the next, I'm sorry, not the best, but the next best artist will be. And you guys are doing that. Tell us a little bit about, you know, how we can leverage that even more to make sure as a community, we're able to push our artists out into the forefront.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest challenges for most artists. Artists are introverts. And biggest thing I try to, when I purchase artwork, I try to have a relationship with the artist because I have a business degree and I understand business and a lot of artists do not. So I want to help educate them to understand the business side of art. No offense, it's not just art, it's the art business. Art should be for everybody, but unfortunately we're in a capitalist society and people will try to profit off it. So you need to understand why they're profiting, right? So educating the artists about that. Then the next piece, that's really what the gallery should be helping educate the artists and how, like, this is why we're doing this. This is how we're going to build your career. Know you want to do X amount of print runs. You want to keep it limited because of this. This is the why, right? And becoming that trusted advisor, not only just to the collector, but also mainly the artists, because they are honestly the talent in the pipeline, because there's not a lot of creative people in the world. And it's really sad when you see artists kind of just become a starving artist. I really feel like there shouldn't be, because we should be supporting our artists, especially during the time of COVID, where artists are really helping and saving a lot of people with the creativity and stuff that they're giving to the world for free. But at the same time, a lot of them cannot because they don't have the funds to do it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So as a community, we should definitely reach out to galleries, reach out to artists, and reach out to collectors. And the collectors and artists should be doing the exact same thing, because artists, even though they want to paint, they need to understand what their collectors like, right? And if they don't, and same thing for the gallery, who can kind of guide the artists to where they need to get to. Yeah. It's really a, three-legged stool if you think about it.
Excellent. Well, as we close, I'm going to close out with some amazing pieces from your collection and some names people know that were emerging. Stephen Olalaken, who we introduced you to at the gallery, but Heber Brantley, the whole Max Sansing, the artist with the amazing landscape from, it looks like Ghana or Africa, and then you had another artist. Yes, and then the artist with the books, surrounded by the volumes of books. That's another level.
Jabari Jefferson, yeah.
Yes.
We have the virtual exhibition catalog for all of your fans and other collectors. They can actually go to our, what we call the VEC. It's the virtual exhibition catalog. It's housed on our website, all 8 of them, at galleryguichard.com. And we would love for people to purchase. And if they say your name, Christopher, then they'll get a discount.
I love that. And then we can talk to you about that discount, also a matching donation to your foundation.
That's right.
That's great. So all I can say, you make me proud, young brother, in the fact that who knew you would take the bug and blow it out so well. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate for your guidance and your mentorship, and look forward to seeing this when it comes out. And yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you, Christopher.
Have a great evening. Welcome back to the Bronzeville Art District, third Friday trolley tour. I'm Andre Guichard.
And I'm Frances Guichard.
And we are excited to welcome you to Gallery Guichard in our Zoom gallery for our October trolley tour. And we're starting a very special collector fingerprint series, which is taking a closer look at the end user of these amazing original paintings that we create.
Yes.
And understanding how each collector has their own fingerprint
collectors have fingerprints that are comprised of all of these individual artists that represent who they are. And with that, I am very excited to introduce our featured collector, Glitha Gillespie, who is not only a dear friend and mentor, but just excited to be able to have her share her amazing collection with us tonight.
Yes, hi, Glitha. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Fran and Andre?
Excellent, fabulous.
Fantastic. And as always, your collection is looking as marvelous as usual. And, that's going to bring us into our first question. How did you get started collecting original art, Glitha?
Well, I think my collection started back in 1997. I had a business called Time to Sew and enjoyed working with fabrics and texture. My first degree was in merchandising and learned about hues and colors. And I had worked with a very talented individual that was a tapestress. Name was Gloria Edwards. She's now gone on. She died very young, but she was way before her time. I asked her if she would put together an original piece for me of the Lord's Supper. And so we actually went and bought a blank piece of cloth and ribbons, told her the colors that I wanted. And she actually designed this a black Lord's Supper that was just, I just couldn't believe it. Just the electric movement of it. I mean, the details of it. And from there, I just said, oh, I just love color and art and texture. So that was my very first experience working with a tapestress.
I saw that piece. It's awesome. It really does deliver a very unique and original piece in a tapestry. I really like that piece.
It reminds me of burlap, the thick weave of the texture. So
Right.
Did you see her do that work, or you told her what you wanted and then you saw it later? Because it's
She was very, very private, very
really
private,
interesting, that
extremely
process.
talented, very private, liked to work in her own space in a vacuum. And she never wanted to unveil anything until it was completely done. I think she got just a real thrill out of just seeing the expression of your face. And we went back to the same store that we had bought the thread to have it framed, and the folks all gathered around and said, there's just no way that you could have done this in 3 weeks. It was just, and so, it was a whole conversation with all the store personnel and all the people that were in the store talking about her work and how exquisite it was.
Awesome. Well, now that you've gotten your collection on the roll, what would you tell someone getting into collecting? Why do you collect?
Well, I collect because I love color, I love texture, I love warmth, I love hosting in my house. I want people of all backgrounds and cultures to feel welcome. And so I'm a gardener as well. I believe that my backyard is a representation of nature and how God really created color to be displayed. And so when I see a piece, it speaks to me based upon just the placement of the color, what it's really saying, where it's going to go, how I believe it's going to make me feel and my guests feel when they come to my home.
Very interesting. And that leads me to my next question, because, I think you have a unique talent as a decorator. And as we pan your home and look at some of these amazing spaces, how do you integrate decorating and collecting original art, since everyone can't do what you do and they can't get that piece to match? Maybe they can get your furniture, but how do you integrate those two genres?
So as an interior decorator, we're always looking for that unique piece, but it's about the placement. And I have a technique where I interview my clients, find out what they like, makes them feel good, what makes them feel sad, where they like to travel, what their favorite color is. I ask them to bring forward something that is an antique, something that they've collected or kept from history. And from that, I get a vibe and a feeling for, you know, what would make sense, because everybody's home can't be the same. Everybody's home is not going to be my home. And so I integrate pieces based upon just the personal lifestyle of the individual, because people will want to feel what makes them happy and comfortable. And everybody's not going to feel happy and comfortable with the same thing. Some people are country. And so if you like the country setting, if you like the neo setting, then that's what you should have in your home.
Makes
And
sense.
you have some really unique pieces. Of course, everything you have is an original. Tell us a little bit about, you know, I think we have some of the works that Andre has shared with you. Give us a piece to talk about, the first one.
Maybe the piece that brought our friendship together, because I think this is part of the gift for us as gallerists, is we have met some of our best friends. You are one of them. And that first painting was a commission that we met at a fundraiser.
That's right. My sorority fundraiser.
Mm-hmm. So the majority of the original pieces that I
tell us a little bit about
were from like shows, different shows, Democratic Convention and that. And so I actually met you guys at a show, and when I got there, it appeared to me that the auction had taken place and everything had moved on. And I just said, no way, you're not going to disappear and not give me some of this. And so I had purchased my home, and one of the things that I wanted to do in purchasing my home was to make certain that my bedroom was actually a representation of how I wanted to get up in the morning, and as well as how I wanted to retire at night. My bedroom overlooks my garden, and so it is most important for me to have paintings and a sanctuary there that kind of represents what I do outside. I wanted to bring it inside. And I commissioned your piece at a time where it was approaching fall. And I'm always very sad at the end of fall, because my flowers, you know, fall back and, you know, we hit frost and there's nothing. And so I wanted something that I could wake up to in the morning, and that sun over water just really electrified that wall in a way that it gave me joy every morning, that I could wake up and see a piece that represented so many different dimensions of how I could tell stories in my life.
Love it. There's another piece by a Marlene Campbell, and this one is under a tree, and I forget the title, but it's an amazing piece with sand. Maybe that's another one you could talk about, because there's some that are going to flash into the screen that I really enjoy.
So that particular piece I love, because it's about our heritage. It's about our coming together. It's ascending and descending. We remember our ancestors. We honor them. We know that our life is a tree and that there are many branches and roots there. When I saw that in the very strong colors in that piece, I just felt like, oh my God, I gotta have it. You know, it was definitely a spot in my family room where I sit, and all of my family photos are featured there. And I just felt like it was a centerpiece that could bring all the different generations and my heritage together. And I'm very proud of that piece. That was my very first piece from Campbell.
Thank you, Gleetha. And you know what I like is the way you are able to relate to the story, to your artwork. And I think it's so important, because artists tell a story in most of their works, and you got the stories.
So I also love how no matter how much time goes on, you are still looking for that next emerging artist. Tell us a bit about some of your favorite emerging artists in your collection.
Oh, you know, so I love working with young people. That is my passion, working with the youth. And when I find a young person that is excited about color, art, and placement, it just gives me such a lift. And I discovered Raven Smith. And when I discovered her, you know, her mother brought a piece over that she actually thought was damaged. And I actually took her to an artist, a local artist here, that sat and explained to her that sometimes when you place art down, it does different things. It moves, but it's not a mistake. That's what creates the originality of the art. And so she was relieved by hearing about that. And as a result and a gift to me, she actually gave me the piece. I'm excited about Joey Metcalf, who moved to Chicago from Grand Rapids, Indiana. He had this piece, that one of his first pieces that he called The King. I am a bid whist player. And so downstairs we play bid whist. And when I saw that piece, I said, oh my goodness. I said, where is the queen? So he said, I don't have a queen. I said, well, get busy. And so he actually, I commissioned him to do the queen. And now when I'm playing cards and hosting events, everybody is just enamored with just hearing the story about the king and the queen from Joey Metcalf.
Yeah, those are nice pieces as well, Gleetha. And Raven was still in high school, I believe, when you got that piece.
Right, prodigy.
Right.
Yeah,
Amazing.
she was, I think she was 14 or 15 years old. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I think that leads me to my next question about activism in art. And of course, it would be enough if you just supported artists with your purchases, which you've done since I've known you, and you can continue to do. But you come from a history of lifting up people with diversity in corporations. How do you see how that has influenced how you've approached collecting art?
Well, you know, from the corporate viewpoint, my work in diversity and inclusion was always trying to find a way to make the product of the corporate relevant to the community. And I always felt like art had its way and its place of doing that. And, you know, I started back in the 90s, and there wasn't really a real appreciation for art. But I think coming into the 2000s, and you know, more and more artists were popping up. There was magazines called Homes of Color, and you know, they could actually, corporate could actually see African Americans and people of color spending big dollars on art. And I think one of my most successful projects was the one that I had with you guys, where I introduced the art bag to the Walgreens store, because I was at Walgreens and, you know, we were looking to increase the traffic for the customer inside the store. And the art bag was a big hit. I mean, it actually was featured during Black History Week. Many people that are across the United States may still have their art bag, but that's an example of helping the corporations understand how relevant art is to the life of African Americans and people of color. Sometimes that's all that we have to look at is a portrait or a picture. My father and mother, you know, they were big collectors as well. There was a guy that used to come around the neighborhood and sell art out of his trunk of his car. And our house was a museum because we always had wonderful and beautiful pieces. So for me, it's just the way of life, is what we do. And in today's time, where we're seeing a lot of unrest, social unrest, it is very common to see Black art now with the message. You know, there's a message in art. And I think when it comes to diversity and inclusion, art is going to take the way forward. I really believe that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And they
is.
say art softens a community, and it also tells a story and tells history. So kudos to you, Gleetha, for making sure that that happens with our artwork.
And even more so, understanding that as activists, wherever you are, you just happen to be in the diversity space. And it was at a time where we could both say that people in those roles sometimes were just filling a job and not trying to make a difference. but as an activist, you made a difference in our lives as a small business trying to get a foothold in corporate contracts. And, that just opened a whole nother world. But that was an example of one person and how, as an activist, you can change a community. And it really is powerful. So
Exactly.
kudos.
And it's important that everybody sees the moment that you have. I knew that my time was limited. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to do something historic. I wanted to create a win-win. I wanted something that we could look back on as a community and feel good about. And so everybody has an opportunity every day to have an impact in life and to do something that is going to create a win for us all.
That was amazing. And 700,000 stores across the United States, the distribution power of a multinational corporation. I mean, that was an amazing ride that I think forever changed our lives as small business owners.
Yeah, and I think if more corporations took that type of responsibility, you see a whole different, landscape of working with African Americans and other minorities, helping them to get the word out about various products, but also about art.
Yes.
Now, I did want to ask you another question about commissions. You mentioned commissions, and you've done several commissions. I want to ask you, one being something that I'm working on for you, and then several others that you've had done for your home as well. What do you think about commissions, and what excites you about a commission work?
Oh my
And
goodness.
commission work meaning that you're asking the artist to create work in a particular theme or pattern or genre for you.
Right. I think original work, commission work for me is so personal because I may have a space that I feel like I need to tell a story, and to have someone that you can actually go to say, can you create this? And you start talking about what it is. And, it's just like the original piece that Gloria did. She understood her work, her talent, what she was able to do. She didn't want to unveil anything until it was actually done. Andre, when I commissioned my first piece with him and I showed him the wall, I mean, his eyes got big. That is the largest piece in my house. When he came back with it, I said, well, my goodness, Andre, I didn't want you to take the whole entire wall, but he did, but it was beautiful. But, it's exciting when you can actually articulate what's on the inside of you and know that and have the confidence in the artist that it's going to be delivered. I can't wait to see my piece that you're doing that's going to be unveiled real soon. I have the utmost confidence that it's going to be a wow, because you're going to have a whole entire wall in my dining room, and you're representing what I love best right now, my hobby of a garden. And a garden is just full of color. So can't wait to see what you're doing. So yes, commissions are important. I think people sometimes struggle with what they really want, and so they need a clue. But that's the reason why in my work as an interior decorator, I interview people, because they don't even know many times what's on the inside of them. But through the interview process, I'm able to pull out something that they can resonate and say, oh, that's exactly what I'm trying to portray, or that's exactly what I want. So for me, it's easy because, being a seamstress, being a decorator, working in diversity, I understand the souls and heart, and I understand my soul and heart as well.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. And I'll close with my final question. You may have your own. What would you tell a new collector how they should approach collecting? Because a lot of people think you got to be a millionaire or a billionaire, and no different than decorating your home. They can figure that out, but this sometimes remains a challenge, that first step to acquiring original art. Why is it easier than people make it seem?
Well, people should really start with what makes them feel good, and what do you like? For me, a bathroom. I spend time in my bathroom soaking and So I want art in my bathroom. I want it in my kitchen. I want art anywhere. So you don't have to be so concerned about the placement of it, where it's going to go. It's more about your expression. What is it that you're really trying to say? What is it that you want your art to say? And put it in the, go to the gallery, look around. I believe that individuals will actually know when something speaks to them. I don't collect art by artist's name. I just collect art by how it makes me feel. I don't care who it is. If it fits and it makes me feel good, then I'm going to buy it. And I think individuals should take that approach and just finding their very first piece that, reminds them of something, somebody, a place, a scenery, and knowing that this art is replicating that, and just purchase it, to put it in the home and see how it makes you feel. And, before you know it, you're feeling really good about it, yourself, your home, your space, and you're ready for the next piece.
Awesome. I don't have another question. I just want to say those two pieces behind you are awesome, and they do make your space look amazing. And I know people would love to see the rest of your collection because it is like top of the line. But they get a sneak peek right here and just to see a little bit of it. So Letha, you're doing awesome. We really appreciate you, and we love the work. We love you and appreciate all that you do for the arts.
Yes, thank you for your support and your friendship.
We will continue. We have a long life to live, and we're going to live it in full color.
That's right.
Awesome.
I love
full
that.
Color.
In full color. All right, G. Thank you. Welcome back to the Bronzeville Art District Third Friday Trolley Tour. This is our October 2020 edition with the inaugural Collector Fingerprint Showcase. And we're featuring Joanne Glenn. I'm here with my partner, Francis.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Joe. How are you?
I am fabulous. Thank you for selecting me and welcome into my home.
So as we mentioned, we're highlighting collectors in their homes so that we can highlight how every collector has a fingerprint, and their fingerprint is a collection of all the individual artists they've collected, which tells a story about who they are and all that good stuff. But we're going to cut right to the chase and get to how, Joanne Glenn, did you start collecting art, and when did you start?
Wow. So I started collecting art probably 15, 20 years ago because of some disposable cash. I decided I need to put away some money into something that would appreciate, and just happened to be next door to a fine art gallery on 35th and King Drive with my business of home health. Often I would see the crates come in, the curtains, the big stuff, and I was curious because I have a front door window, what's with the gallery? I had never ever had an opportunity to go into a fine gallery that we have right here in Chicago. So I was curious. So I went next door on 35th and King Drive, and I was welcome, and I was very surprised of the colors, the magnitude, and the feeling of taking a deep breath, walking into such a magnificent space just next door on 35th and King Drive. So as I wandered like a little kid in a candy store, looking at the art, I was welcomed by the Guichards to take a look, and they explained to me what the art meant to them. I shared what the art meant to me. I didn't look at the prices at that point because it didn't matter. It was like, you got to stand for something and invest in something that's important that you can pass on as a legacy. So one trip led to another trip and another trip. I started seeing things I like. And then I found out that I could plan, save, and have. And I did. It got so bad that I think I worked in shipping and receiving for a while, because sometimes when the Guichards were away on business, they would come next door and ask me if they can drop off art. And I gotta tell you, I cheated a little bit. They dropped it off and I looked at it. I looked at it, I liked it, and I purchased it. It got so bad, in a good way, good trouble, that my staff, when I went out, there was Miss Glenn. Don't go. Payday's next week. So it became a running joke, but not funny, ha, as in, you're not going to spend our money on some art. And I was like, yeah, I am. So I'm going to pause. I stopped. I started. I fell in love with art because it makes me feel special. It makes me feel good. And each and every day that I come home from a hard day of work and servicing, which is what I love to do as a nurse, I just feel refreshed because the art talks to me in a very special way. And each piece is a piece of power, color, and understanding. And each time I purchase a piece, either Fran or Andre told me the story of the artist, and it resonated with me. So each piece that has been selected as part of my collection is very, very special. I hope you enjoy it. Don't look for me. Go next door, which is now on 47th Street, and invest in yourself.
You know, Joe, you bring up some really good points. Let me just start with one of them being not, at first you were afraid to walk into an art gallery and you didn't know what to expect. There are so many people who have never been to an art gallery, never been exposed to original artwork, but you took the challenge to come in and see the work. And that's an awesome thing, because now you got exposed to it and you can see how it works within your own home.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I heard from you is a budget and a payment plan and time. Once you understand that you can budget for art, you can also even ask a gallery for a payment plan, and you can pay over time and get more original works of art. And just knowing that, let me ask another question. How do you feel about having artwork that you have to wait for on a payment plan if that's what you've done? Does it make you feel like, oh, I'm anxious to get the piece, or do you feel like it really gives you an opportunity to have something original that you wouldn't already have?
So again, the little girl in me is the excitement of waiting on something special. I mean, once I come into the gallery, I'm welcome, I feel special. And then I go to my red dotted piece and I look at it and I like, oh, I got a space for you. You know, I'll look in my home and I'll see where it fits. I've been blessed enough to have my art curated by both you guys. So together we decide on the best fit. And I really am anxious until I get it to my home because I have this space waiting on it. It's almost like a baby, you know, when 9 months is coming. So you go ahead and you buy the cradle, you get the speaker and you get everything ready. You have the shower. So it's truly an investment. And I'm just sorry it took me so long to get here. And I'm here.
Thank you.
I love it. And for me, you talk about a lot of things that I think deserve breaking down, because when people come into a gallery, they'll see the label with the title, the medium, what it's made of, the price, but you spoke about something, the synopsis, the story behind the art, and tell us how that plays an important role in choosing the works that speak to you and are part of the fingerprint of your whole collection.
Well, my concept of money, first of all, is it's just paper, and they burn it every day. And if you do what you love, money comes by default. So the value of art or something that you collect is priceless. So putting a dollar signs on it, I think is not a fair appreciation of self. And we can get anything we want if we plan and have conversations to get it, because again, it's just paper.
It's just paper. And we spend money on non-appreciating things every day and
Absolutely.
don't think anything about it. But here you have things, and just looking in your backdrop, the beautiful Stefano Lake and the Marlene Campbell, both of those I've personally seen increase in appreciation 100%, 150% in 5 years. So these are the things that oftentimes our community misses out on, but yet
all these diamonds in the rough are in our neighborhood.
Yeah, and I got to share with you, each piece, as you know, is an original. Each piece has a monetary value as far as listing it with your insurance, making sure when you take care of your business, which we all should do because you come, you got to go. So each piece is listed as far as the value of it, whom should get it and at what point. And again, it's leaving legacy. It appreciates, and I have several pieces, as you said, that have doubled in price. So when you look at your worth, you know, it's not just stuff, it's valuables.
And with each piece, you get a certificate of authenticity. So that helps you provide the information to your insurance company and your invoices.
Yep.
It's always good to keep those.
It's like buying a nice car, some jewelry, some fur coat, or anything of value, as you said.
Exactly.
Every piece is listed on my insurance. All the certificates have been filed. So there's a value and worth even more than what I put in initially.
So when you think of your assets, your home, your automobiles, your artwork is part of the legacy that you're passing on.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And listed accordingly.
And listed accordingly.
Yes.
So there are a couple pieces, of course, we want to talk to you about. And one of them is a ballpoint pen and ink by Al Burtz that you were blessed that it came back from Art Basel and you were able to get it before, I think Jay-Z or somebody was looking at it. But
yeah, Jay-Z was looking at the piece.
Right.
You know,
Jay-Z, JG, you know, yeah.
Just one character off.
One J after another, right? Yeah. Thanks for that bringing it up because there happens to be a documentary on that. So there was a quiet little bid going on between Jay-Z and JG. And of course, his money is longer, but my tolerance, my patience outweighed him. So Al Burks is in my home.
That's right.
It's an amazing piece too.
And the scale of that, it's a rare piece in terms of those paper pieces that large. I haven't seen anything that large. Well, I've seen works on wood, none on paper that large. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Like you said, when it came back from Art Basel, I was surprised that she had made it back to Chicago. And one of those days, which were often, when I was perusing in the gallery, I walked in the door and she was there. I said, she came back home in my. It was in a crate, like a zombie or a body. Very elegantly wrapped. A little scary at first because I've never seen or received anything delivered like that. So preciously wrapped. And it was just, I don't know, it was such a gift. And I knew she was coming. That made me feel so good. And then when she was installed at the very top, glistering with the sun going down, looking from the north side of Chicago at the North View, it's just a perfect, priceless piece. I don't even recall my investment at the time, but I know it surpassed that. And yeah, there are a few people angry, but I'll send pictures.
Right, that came all the way from overseas.
That's right.
That was a big piece, and it was amazing. It's amazing.
And of course, Calvin Coleman, you're one of the early
Calvin work.
Calvin, and you still
Calvin
have
work. Calvin work speaks to me because it's powerful. You know, they're women, again, strong women. Because you guys would sleep, you know, when God made man, you would sleep. So anyway, strong women. Strong woman, very colorful, very powerful. And Calvin has a stroke like none other. And yes, I have several of its pieces and I'm glad. And they're pretty sizable as well.
So of all of your pieces, which would be two of your favorites?
Wow. I would have to give you two rooms to have them in. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I have a wonderful, interesting piece down here of marble a lady,
Oh,
bare-breasted,
from
that I
Robert
think
Chamoka from South Africa.
from South Africa.
Right.
And I waited in the gallery on the piece because Andre Guichard was out on a delivery, and I thought he was trying to get rid of my piece. There was a little misunderstanding with that. But anyway, she's here very comfortable next to the fireplace.
And she's awesome. What about that Stephen Ola Lakin behind you? Just a little bit.
Yes.
Or just a little bit.
Recent acquisition. I love that piece.
Yes.
It's so elegant.
Stephen Ola Lakin.
Yeah. This piece was curated by the Guichards because we had to find a special right place for her. She's life size. So she's sitting in my window, kind of watching over me, you know? And at the same time, watching over the world because downtown Chicago, the lights are my nightlight, and anybody that's peeping on me, they think it's two of us in here. So it's a good thing.
Covered in the African cloth, African cloth.
Yeah, and when I talked to Fran about who is she, you know, what's the story? Because I always inquired about the artist and their work and what they were thinking. And she has her hands like this in just a little bit. And that's resonated with me because just a little bit of love, just a little bit of time, just a little bit of patience, just a little bit of belief, and you can have it all.
I love that.
Wonderful. And again, just those little stories behind the art really make it resonate with you personally. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If you could speak, and this is my last question before we close out, but if you could speak what, during this time of the Twilight Zone, COVID and all the things going on, what does it mean to come home to a space like yours, which is adorned with commissioned work, one-of-a-kind, all one-of-a-kind pieces that you hand selected? How does that affect your mental and your wellness? What does that mean for you?
It's a game changer, totally. Some of you may know I'm a nurse. I own a home health agency, so I'm out in COVID as an essential worker, and I'm serving happily. So when I come in from the street, from the challenges of taking care of our people that I gladly do, it's almost like coming home to an oasis. You know, even though I know what's in here, the feeling with the colors and the warmth, each and every time just wraps around me like you're in a safe place, you're in a good place. So it's not like you walk in and you know something's gonna be right there. I know what's right there, but the feeling that it gives me, because it's giving me something, it's just different and wonderful each and every time.
Awesome.
Love it. Love it.
Well, thank you,
So
Joe.
again, thank you for coming to my humble home.
Yes.
And see you soon.
Thank you so much. You have an amazing collection. I love the stories behind each of your pieces, and you are an amazing person as a collector and a friend.
And
thank you so much. Back at you.
Thank you for sharing your fingerprint of your collection with our viewers, and we appreciate all of the art activism that you constantly engage yourself in, supporting the gallery and supporting our artists. And with that, we say thank you and see you at the next exhibit.
Absolutely. Good night.
Good night.
Welcome back to the Bronzeville Art District third Friday trolley tour here in the Gallery Guichard virtual Zoom exhibition, and excited to welcome you to our next participant in the Collector Fingerprint series, which is a series showcasing different fingerprints of individual collectors in their homes. Just as artists have individual fingerprints, we're showcasing how each of the collectors have a fingerprint which is reflected by the art that they collect. So with that, my name is Andre Guichard, co-owner of Gallery Guichard, artist and collector, and my co-host
Francis Guichard. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Mike B. What's up, good brother?
What's up, family? Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is a good conversation, and I really appreciate you enjoy opening up your home for the purpose of educating, because a lot of people think you have to be a millionaire or a billionaire, but you started collecting not long after college. And I don't know how many years after it was that you graduated, but it wasn't many, but yet you commissioned a painting, but it was still dear to your heart as it was a commission of Bob Marley. And at that time, I didn't understand the connection between Rasta and Ethiopia. But talk to us a little bit about that point in time in your life as a young
Well,
man
that's a
collecting original art.
great question. And Bob Marley, for me at that time, even earlier than that, was extremely iconic for me, just in terms of the philosophy and the nationalism that I connected to, and Rastafarianism. So at that time, I was really into the reggae music scene, and the expression of reggae music and Black nationalism was something that really spoke to me. So it only made sense for me to pick an image or pick images that I gave you back in 1999 that I said, hey, this is what I want to say in my home. And I couldn't think of a better person to help capture that image of who I thought Bob Marley was, and your artistic style, and those two things married together just came out phenomenal for me. So it definitely worked out even better than I could have imagined at the time that I first reached out to you.
Awesome. But you know, you mentioned something, the word married. When buying art, you know, some people are single and they can just pick out whatever they want. How do you balance the selection or acquisition of art with your wife?
You know, and she's in earshot. I'm gonna bring her over here in a second. But it is, I don't even think it's delicate, because she knows me and I know her, and it doesn't always mean that we have the same taste, but what we do is we give enough whiteboard space in this home for both of us to have an expression of what we like and what we gravitate to. So I normally do send her images of things that I've seen in the gallery, and she'll do the same, and we bounce it off each other. But at the end of the day, whatever really resonates with her is something that resonates with her, and I'm willing to allow that in the home, just as she's willing to allow the things that resonate with me in the home. And I think that that's the spirit and the energy you feel when you're in this home. It's an expression of both of us.
Love it, love it.
Speaking to that, you both brought original work from when you were single to your married home. So her Milton Bowens, I recognize, and your original Andre Guichard, but then you all purchased your first piece together, artist from Ethiopia, Merit Tafase. So I really, if you could talk a bit about how marrying collections and how the personality of the work she purchased fits your home and fits your personality, just like you two fit each other. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think that we generally have a theme of Africa is really the centerpiece of everything that you'll see, whether it's the mask, whether it's a sword, you know, or a machete. It all has to have an African quality. So again, you know, reaching out when the brother from Ethiopia was here, it just made sense for us to get a work from him to not only to support the gallery, but we felt that it was just the right time to add another piece to the collection. So, you know, we love it. I mean, it's still a conversation piece when people come by, and it doesn't exist anywhere else to my knowledge. So those are the things that I feel really make that.
That's right. All original, baby.
Yes, that's something about, you know, having original work of art. Just like you said, nobody else will ever have a piece identical to yours. As Andre always says, it's your own fingerprint. You know, each artist has their own fingerprint, and each collector has their own fingerprint. tell me why original art resonates with you. Like, what is it other than, you know, just having a singular piece, that what is it about an original piece that makes it special to you?
Versus a print, because I noticed you don't have a lot of prints in your house. So just your preference, is there reason, and just a conversation around that.
Well, I think that there are some dope prints. Prints don't necessarily resonate with me in the same way, just because I just have a unique style, and part of that style is individual. So I want, even if I'm not here, if someone was to walk in this house, they would see the art. And I think that art is an expression of your personality, right? You should have an understanding, or at least a snapshot into that person's personality, by seeing the things that they are in their home, the things that they adorn themselves with. So for me, original artwork is just that. It is mine uniquely. And yeah, just the fact that it doesn't exist in any other collector's home is an important aspect to me. And I never got into art, or I'm not even into art necessarily for any resale value. It's just what resonates with me, what speaks to my spirit, in the same way with joy. And we put these things together to create the environment around this house that we feel comfortable in, and we hope that people really get inspired by, if that makes sense to you.
That does.
Yes, absolutely.
So they say art makes a house a home, but how do you, or what would you recommend to people who get intimidated? You know, they have the nice house, they got everything else, but they haven't made the move to art yet, but they're afraid. But you know, you have been able to do that, and maybe you can recommend some things about how you approach art, or you would tell people to approach art and starting their own collection.
Another great question. Or I guess really for me, it's just a matter of seeing what I like, and visiting a gallery in the community that you live in, I think is a great place to start. And for me, and this isn't really a cheesy commercial plug, but it only makes sense for me. I mean, I have a friend who is an accomplished artist who lives in my community. So that art gallery, to me, really represents the center of the, what I want to say, the collective energy, the creative spirit of what Bronzeville is. I think that you guys curated that very nicely. So for me, I don't really have to look any further than the gallery that's down the street, which is Gallery Guichard, because I know that it always changes, and there's always something there that I send to my wife, and I say, man, what do you think about this? And even if I don't get it at the time, you know, I put that in the file somewhere back in my mind and say, man, I'm going to get this piece when there's a space free, or when the economics of the house say, man, it's the right time. So for people who are looking and intimidated, and who have the house, start with the space that you're looking to fill, and then look at the beauty of things around you and say, man, this piece or this particular gallery has those type of pieces that I feel would really shape out my house in the way that I want to. So that would be my recommendation for any new or upcoming collector.
Nice.
Yes, and Mike, what do you think it does for the family? You know, of course you enjoy, but also for your children. What do you think it does for the family, having art in your home?
Good question.
So yeah, another phenomenal question. And I think that, and I'm going to bring Joy over here too, because I want her to have a piece of this answer. Yeah. But for me, the way that I look at art is, I do look at my children and say, this is something that they will absolutely appreciate when I'm gone, or when this piece is passed to them. And beyond that, I feel that art and the expression of Africa, and I've mentioned that before, the expression of Africa is important for me to create and cultivate those images and that spirit of creativity within my children. So for me, the art is just an expression of how I feel about myself, how I feel about Africa, and the things that I want them to see and become comfortable with as they begin to grow and appreciate the beauty of the art that they have in the home they live in.
Nice.
Great. Yes. And so is Joy around?
Yeah,
We'd
I love
love
to
to hear
hear
her side of it.
with Joy. And of course, respect and thank you, Joy, for allowing us to come into your home virtually.
Yes. Hey.
And your continued support of the arts and the gallery. But we're just bouncing some questions off of Mike, and we wanted to get your thoughts on the importance of collecting for your family as a mother. How do you feel that has an effect on your children and that you see as a mother?
Well, I would say I definitely collect art that I'm drawn to, and where Michael and I meet in the middle is Africa, but I think where I mainly focus is music. And the first piece when I was not married, had my own condo, was the sweet potato pie piece that I purchased, and it had musical notes in it. My uncle, R. Sidney Henderson, is an artist, and he created a few musical pieces for me because my dad was a musician that passed away. So even in our nursery for our daughter, I have musical pieces. So for me, as she grows up, I want her to be not only centered around Africa, but know that this is a musical home and be able to see that, and that's reflected in the art.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
I really feel like, you know, when you have an art collection and when you come together as a family, it is a representation of both of you, as you said, but it also provides a strong structure and deeply rooted, you know, ideals around how you are raising your family and your children. I really love what you guys are doing and really getting, you know, building your collection and really creating a special home. With that, can you tell me, like, what are you looking for next? Like, what's your next big dream? Have you guys talked about another piece or anything that?
Well, we still have wall space.
You're thinking about?
So there's always opportunity for more. I think that's just a given. So it just really depends what moves us and what space we're trying to fill next.
Interesting.
Awesome.
And I'll close on that. Do you prioritize spaces on where you entertain, or do you prioritize on where you spend time together as a family? Bedroom, personal space, bathroom, man cave. How do you prioritize what wall gets art first, or how do the two of you?
I think we've been in our home for about 6 years. So I think first and foremost is where we spend the most time, on the main level, on the sub level. We still have opportunities to fill bedroom, upstairs hallways, bathrooms. So I think that as our collection grows, naturally we'll start to rotate art around. So maybe some pieces that have been in the house for a while will move upstairs, and the newer pieces will get main visibility on the main floor.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
And I just want to give you kudos. We did know your uncle, R. Sidney Henderson, who is an awesome artist.
That's
and,
how we looked up.
That's exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, of course, he worked with the gallery.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say thank you, Mike, you know, brother from my Nupi mother, of course, and, you know, always there. And I just love seeing your growth as an entrepreneur, your family, and thank you all for being activists in this community, not just culturally. And thank you for tonight sharing with people how easy it is to collect and pass on wealth and culture.
Yes, thank you, Joy and Mike. We really appreciate you guys, and you guys are amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Much love to you and continued success for the gallery, man. We are in it for the long haul.
Thank you, brother. Until next time, see y'all at the next exhibit.
Hi. With this segment, we wanted to make sure that we talked about how important it is to come out and vote. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we want to make sure that you know 2020 victory is ours.
Make sure you vote like your life depends on it. And please vote for the entire Democratic ticket.
And if you need to find your voting location, go to iwillvote.com. Also, download the Vote Joe app so you can host your own event. November 3rd is election day. You can vote early or you can vote on the day of, but please make sure you vote.
And please check with your family and friends and make sure they have a voting plan. Go Biden.
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Click on the link for the virtual exhibition catalog that you're interested in. Then once it opens up, you are inside of the Gallery Guichard exhibition of your choice. Now you can move around freely by touching the circles, and you can get information about each painting, title, medium, artist, and contact information for Gallery Guichard.